Sit down in my Kajaro chair here. Best chairs ever, I'm telling you. I'll even put an Amazon link down below. These are phenomenal chairs. Love them. I buy them all the time. They hold up great. Anyway, today I'm going to drink some Monster Tea Lemonade, Recover, and talk about destructive testing when it comes to optics, scopes, red dots, prisms, things like that. Why I do them and why I think it's silly that you have a problem with it. Let's get into it. Now, before we go any farther, I'd like to give a big thank you to the sponsor of this video, Aura. I spend my time testing and reviewing life-saving gear and equipment so that you can make the most educated decision possible on what you want to defend your life and the life of your loved ones. But physical threats aren't the only thing out there anymore. In today's internet day and age, cybersecurity is a must, and that's why I choose Aura. Have you ever searched yourself on the internet? You would be shocked to see how much of your personal information is out there. Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, email, home address, health records, your relatives' records, it's all out there. And Aura can take care of that for you. Cleaning up your information on the internet does a lot for your protection, from keeping your social media from being hacked, bank account and bank fraud issues, personal information getting out there, and much more. Just this past December, I got hit with one of these scammers, and there were several $1,000s stripped from my bank account. It cost me a ton of money, time off work, stress, and time to get that taken care of. Had I had Aura then, I probably could have avoided that. Aura has multiple plans that include antivirus, VPN, password management, safe browsing, online account monitoring, social security and personal info monitoring, spam call and junk mail removal, identity verification monitoring, home and auto title monitoring, and so much more. How much is your cybersecurity, your internet safety, and the internet safety of everybody in your family worth to you? They have 3 packages starting from $10 a month to $25. However, if you use my link, aura.com/RTT, you will get 14-day free trial with no obligation to buy anything. Try it out for yourself. If you're not happy, you can cancel. Again, physical threats are not the only threats out there anymore. I value my internet protection. Do you value yours? Check out aura.com/RTT. Link will be down below and in the pinned comment. And now back to the video. So I recently got this comment on my Arkin Optics 1:8 EP8 scope review video. It's not the first comment of its kind that I'll ever get, or any other YouTuber that does this sort of destructive testing gets, and it won't be the last. But I want to educate and inform you of why myself and others like me do destructive testing on optics, and why we do it in certain ways that we do it. And I can say we because I've talked to other YouTubers who have the very same mindset that I do, as well as people who understand why the tests are done the way they're done. So let's first cover a part of and I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'm not going to go through the whole comment, but I get comments like that a lot, and a lot of the same points. So let's first go through the part of the comment that says, who would expect an optic to survive 3 drops on concrete-like ground? Well, all but about 2 or 3 that I've ever done have survived that exact same drop test with that exact same rifle hooked to it, because that is my test platform rifle, and as well as pistol optics that I've done the exact same test to. The only ones that in my mind, and I'm going to put them up here, the only ones in my mind that I can remember that have failed the drop test are the Blackhound 1:8, where I bent the tube, the Lucid L7, I think it's called, the L7. It wasn't a very good scope to begin with, but it had a massive point of impact, point of aim, point of impact shift. In fact, this Gideon Mediator failed the rifle drop test, but passed the pistol drop test, and we'll get into that in a second. And here's a list of all the optics I've tested that have passed the drop test, and some even far and above the drop test, where I decided to have some fun with it and beat it around a little bit until it quit. So in every optic test and every optic video, I give you 3 sections of the video, every one of them. Every video is this, basically every optic video is exactly the same for me. There's 3 sections to it. There is the specifications for it, like battery life, eye relief, you know, if it's a dot, how big the dot is, things like that, right? My personal experience using it through normal operation, normal use, non-destructive, non-impactful use. And then the drop test, which is testing its limits. It is amazing to me how many people out there don't understand testing something to its limits. So what those 3 sections gives you, it gives you the information and education of the optic itself. What's the body made of? What's the glass made of? What's the dot size? What's the reticle? What's, you know, all that stuff. That gives you the information. My personal experience with it in using it during normal operation lets most people know how it would perform for them if the quality standards of that company is consistent. And the third is worst case scenario, testing it to its limits. Now I do that from shoulder height for a reason. I do that from shoulder height because that's where you're using your fucking gun. You're either mounted your rifle or you're shooting a pistol, and it's generally from shoulder height. What may happen? Well, there may be a situation where an engagement goes wrong and somebody runs into you, somebody tackles you. Many things can go wrong in a high stress, high impact environment that causes you to drop your gun. And I know what somebody out there is going to say, well, I would never drop my gun. Yeah, not dropping your gun in Call of Duty doesn't count. Okay, so in real life, right, not the imaginary world that some of these people live in real life, there are times where you might trip, where you might get tackled, where something may happen and you do drop your firearm. And you need to be comfortable knowing that when you pick it back up, it will still be zeroed. You will still be able to use it to its fullest potential. My job is to do as much of this testing and give you as much information as possible so you can make an educated decision on whether or not you want to buy that optic. And that includes destructive tests to failure if it fails. Now, there are variables to consider. So that is where optics like this Gideon Mediator come back into play. The rifle mount for the Mediator is made of 6061 aluminum, which is a soft aluminum. 6061 tends to bend, where 7075 tends to break. When I did the drop test with this, it lost zero by, I want to say it was 4 inches at 50 yards, if I remember correctly. On the rifle, it lost zero by something like 4 inches at 50 yards, which means 8 inches at 100 yards. That's significant. However, I was able to take the variables out of the equation, the variables being the lack of a locking lug in the mount and the mount itself, which is why I went ahead and put it on this pistol, shot 200 or 300 more rounds through it, and then did the drop test with the pistol to make sure it wasn't the emitter that was shaking loose. And it wasn't. Trust me, I don't make enough money on that video to have justified going through that entire process, buying the plate to go from RMR to acro, and 200 or 300 rounds of ammo to do that retest, to take that variable out for the fun of it. Sometimes I can't do that. Sometimes there's no way to know. And this goes back to the Arkin optics. People have asked, are you sure it wasn't the mount that Arkin sent me that bent? No, I'm not sure. It could have been the mount. But there's no way for me to retest that because that is a variable that I can't take out of the equation. I could have put a different mount on it, redid the drop test, and if it shifted again, was it the mount again? How many times do you have to go through that before you just give up? So there's no way to take the variable out of some of those scenarios. With the Blackhound Optics test, I obviously bent the tube. I bent the tube right at the focus, not the focus ring, but at the magnification ring, right there where the start of it meets the magnification ring. I could no longer twist the magnification ring. I bent the tube in that area. But that is the whole point in destructive optic testing. I don't throw it against a boulder, right? I don't go around dragging optics behind a truck because that's just silly. But I try to input the most realistic scenario that a person could have with their firearm, and that is something happening while shooting or carrying the gun at shoulder height and it hitting the ground. Now, for people like this guy, if he can't wrap his peasy little brain around that, I can't help him. But it is my opinion, and the opinion of many, many, many other people, that destructive testing within reason, of course, is an important part of optic testing because you need to know the failure points. There are plenty of cheap Chinese optics, and not because they're Chinese, but because they're cheaply made. Cheap optics out there you can buy off of Amazon for $40, $50, $60, even $90 that don't have the robustness built into the electronics and body and windows and glass of it in order to be used or at least be trusted in high impact dynamic environments that you need to rely on it for your life. They're probably fine range toys, and I'm sure more manufacturers would be happy with me if I just put 200 rounds through an optic and said, hey, it's good, it did fine for 200 rounds. But to me, that does not tell the whole story of the optic, of the battery, of the circuitry, and of its durability. So, thank you for watching. There's the very boring, mundane, not interesting, not entertaining, purely educational video of why myself and many others do destructive testing to optics, what's the purpose of it, and what the end result of that testing gives you for information. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll talk to you later.